आज मैं अपनी फैमिली को लेके क्रूज में जा रहा हूं तो भी लोगों को तकलीफ है। अरे मैं कोई बेगर हूं? आई एम वाशु भगनानी यार। मैं बिल्डर हूं, मैं फिल्म मेकर हूं, मुझे 50 आईपी का मैं मालिक हूं। आज मैं दुनिया को लेके घूमता हूं, मैं जा रहा हूं, लोगों को तकलीफ हो रही है। पीपल शुड स्माइल, दे शुड क्लैप। अरे यार वाशु भगनानी दो ना, क्या आदमी यार।
Film production and the avenue of financing films has evolved over several decades. While acquiring funds through financial institutions only happened at the break of the 21st century, acknowledging it to be a legitimate industry, and this in turn led to financing being streamlined, structured, and heavily corporatized. Prior to this, film financing was rather dubious, where the sources of where the money was coming from did not really have a legitimate paper trail, and this would be the major cause of many projects getting shelved or cancelled. Pooja Entertainment, a film production company owned by Vashu Bhagnani and Jackie Bhagnani, most recently has been under the scanner due to various articles being published regarding supposed the financial state of the company. There were articles floating around regarding their 7-story Juhu property being sold so that the company can pay off debts of 250 crores due to the failure of several films including Ganpat and Bade Miyan Chote Miyan. This is all conjecture, by the way. There were accusations of unpaid dues to employees and an article floating around where it was said that 80% of the company's employees had been laid off in order to recuperate its losses. Vashu Bhagnani vehemently denies all these claims and speaks about how the 7-story building is still owned by him and is being repurposed as a 15-story building, and how in the industry of films, hits and flops will carry on. While we associate Pooja Entertainment as a production company that has not had a financial hit since 2001, at least a box office theatrical hit, yes, of the several movies produced by Pooja Entertainment, they haven't had a box office hit in over 20 years. But it becomes very clear that film production is one of the many business pursuits of the Bhagnani family, having huge construction projects in India and in the UK, making me assume that the film production and its losses are not creating such a heavy dent for the family as we would assume. Yes, it is not favorable in any way, and Vashu Bhagnani speaks about still working on several movie projects ahead, but this situation made me think about the daunting task of film production and how many would not be as lucky as the Bhagnanis who have several other business pursuits. What about those who have all their eggs in one basket regarding film production? What happens when you invest so much, all dependent on a box office result, and when that is not favorable, you find yourself broke? What about the cases where film production companies at one point of time were at the top of their game and suddenly vanished in thin air? Let's speak about the rise and fall of Bollywood companies who lost everything. Shri Ashtavinayak Cinevision. You must have seen the name of this production company appear, especially for films that released in the mid-2000s. The company, whose chief was Dylan Mehta, their first venture with Hindi cinema was with the 2003 film Fantoosh. It only grew from strength to strength with ventures like Maine Pyar Kyun Kiya, Golmaal, and most notably with Jab We Met. However, it wasn't smooth sailing at all for the production and distribution company, financing films like Blue and Luck, which turned out to be financial failures, but garnered great commercial acclaim with movies like Dabangg and Rockstar. However, on 20th June 2014, the company was suspended from trading. Additionally, the Bombay High Court assigned a liquidator after the company failed to pay its creditors. In 2015, both Dylan Mehta and his father were arrested by the Economic Offences Wing of the Mumbai Police for a scam that is reported to be an estimated amount of 824 crores. The accusation was that an IPO was executed to finance films, but the money was being laundered to bogus companies. The company's last Bollywood release was Bol Bachchan in 2012, and ever since the film production company has more or less vanished, several of its IPs are owned by other production companies like Zee, Viacom 18 and Sony. Sri Naurang Godavari Entertainment Limited. Film production is definitely not everyone's cup of tea, and you might remember on a random day when news was circulating that Rajpal Yadav had been arrested. One wondered how the actor had found himself in such a pickle. The actor actually served a 3-month sentence in jail for defaulting on a 5 crore loan that he took to produce a film called Ata Pata Lapata. Telepay's company Murli Projects filed a civil case against the actor's company Sri Naurang Godavari Entertainment when the loan was not repaid. The Rajpal Yadav directed, produced and starring film Ata Pata Lapata that released in 2012 turned out to be a financial disaster, and ever since then has not produced any films. You can go to their YouTube channel now and still just find some clips from their 2012 film and nothing more. Rajpal Yadav, however, clarified that this is a confusing matter that is still going on in the Delhi High Court, despite the sentence served in jail. If you see his Lalan Top interview, he says a lot regarding the matter, but it'll confuse you more than give you clear answers.
तो अता पता पूछ के जब पता मिलता है ना, तो वो जिंदगी, मुझे लगता है कि अता पता लापता मेरे जीवन का अता पता पता मिला है। What the
Percept Picture Company, a production company whose name you may have seen pop up in the mid-2000s and 2010s, is of Percept Picture Company. This is a company that was involved in the production of several films, including the animated 2005 film Hanuman, the 2006 comedy Malamal Weekly, and ventures like Jannat and Ugly or Pugly, even the animated film Jumbo, and several others as the years passed by. Percept was just not producing films, but were involved in advertising under the subsidiary of MASH Advertising, and you would remember the music festival Sunburn, a festival I used to visit regularly in the early 2010s that was also owned by Percept. The company, however, has had several legal battles. Ownership of Sunburn that led to a fallout with Nikhil Chanappa, filing an injunction against UTV to stay the release of the film Shoebite with Amitabh Bachchan, and most importantly, a legal battle within the company between brothers Shailendra Singh and Harendra Singh regarding dues and checks bouncing. While the company is still active, it is nowhere as big and influential as it was in the mid to early 2010s. Their last movie release was a poorly received Tamil adaptation of Children of Heaven that released in 2022. ABCL. Amitabh Bachchan is hands down one of the Mount Rushmores of Indian cinema, a legend that will be remembered for the years he has entertained and enthralled us in front of camera. However, Amitabh Bachchan's foray into film production with the advent of a more structured corporatized film world turned out to be disastrous. Founded in 1995, the purpose of the company was film production, distribution, and event management. Film ventures like Tere Mere Sapne, Mrityu Data, and Major Saab turned out to be commercial duds. And this, mind you, is during the time where Amitabh Bachchan's commercial draw significantly declined post his failed stint in politics. The company was responsible for live telecasting of Miss World in 1997, assuming it would be financially fruitful, but turned out to make them lose money instead. At the end of the 90s, the company was in debt of over 90 crores and in a legal mess, and it took years of working on TV and film for Amitabh Bachchan to stay afloat.
So there were about 90 crore rupees to be paid back. There were about 55 legal cases that were
55?
Yeah. And there were creditors on the door every day. Very embarrassing. Very humiliating.
Amitabh Bachchan Corporation Limited is still credited as a producer of films like Sarkar 3 and Ghumar, but nowhere close to the scale it once was in the 90s. BR Chopra. While everyone associates Yash Chopra and his children as the Chopra dynasty that formed Yash Raj Films, many people forget about the late BR Chopra, Yash Chopra's elder brother who he worked with for the initial phase of his career. BR Chopra and BR Films was nothing short of a mini empire. With stints of failure and success in the 50s with film direction, BR Chopra created BR Films in 1955. He had a successful career as a producer and director across decades, with hits like Ek Hi Rasta and Naya Daur, initially to being associated with titles like Gumrah, Karm, Ittifaq, Pati Patni Aur Wo, and several others. The success was not restricted to just films, but TV shows too, having produced the most famous Mahabharat television series in the late 80s and Ramayana in the early 2000s. This was an empire in the truest sense, but this would not be the case for long. His son Ravi Chopra, having directed the TV show Ramayana, directed movies like Babul and Bagban, one of which you definitely don't see with your parents. But BR Films was not the giant that it once was. BR Chopra passed away in 2008, the last production of the company being in the same year as well. Bhootnath with Amitabh Bachchan. Ravi Chopra, the son, passed away 6 years later due to a lung ailment. The production company has more or less vanished, not being associated with any films for over 15 years. The only news regarding the family is that some properties were sold in 2018 due to money being owed to Viacom 18, and in 2022, BR Chopra's 25,000 square foot bungalow spread nearly an acre of land in Mumbai's Juhu locality was sold for a whopping 183 crores. Imagine being the king at one point of time and now most of your assets just being sold. Eros International. The company became one of the first distributors on VHS, and with the launch of Eros Now, had a huge library of films under its umbrella, including the likes of Vicky Donor, Tanu Weds Manu, Rockstar, and English Winglish. In an article written by Lata Jha for Mint, she states that an analyst said with Eros' rating going from a BBB- to D in 2019, it indicated something was awry. As a result of the huge investment in digital, Eros had to constrict its movie side a bit. This led to them doing joint ventures and them not getting into large tentpole films that much. When the smaller films didn't work, that led to more stress, the analyst added. The article further stated, to be sure, Eros hasn't backed a big-ticket Bollywood film since Sanjay Leela Bansali's 2015 magnum opus Bajirao Mastani that cost them over 145 crores. It has earlier been admitted to letting go of projects like Padmavat and Shivai because of budget concerns and the fact that the company was looking to consciously shift from box office to online video streaming. In the period thereafter though, the repertoire has been cluttered with box office failures, even in the form of low-scale, modestly mounted films like Man Marziyan, Bhavesh Joshi Superhero, Mukkabaz, Munna Michael, Sarkar 3, Rockan 2, and Bar Bar Dekho. Its streaming platform that was functioning 1 or 2 years ago is also under maintenance if you check right now. Experts, however, say that this problem has existed even in the mid-2000s with their investments with supreme disasters like Veer, Drona, and Yuvraj. Experts say that the company's transition from big-budget films to mid-budget films is representative of their financial crunch. While the company vehemently denies this claim of the company being in dire straits, the last movie venture they were associated with was a 2021 film Haseen Dilruba. On 22nd June 2023, the Securities Exchange Board of India, in its interim order, stated that its probe to find out that the company's financial statements were allegedly indicative of misrepresentation and siphoning of funds. Eros moved to the Securities Appellate Tribunal against the order, but the tribunal refused to interfere with the order and rejected the company's appeal. The back and forth between SEBI and the company continues even today. Sahara 1 Motion Pictures. Subrata Roy and Sahara is a chapter that deserves a solo video itself. The demigod-like influence that he had with Sahara India Parivar was truly scary. It had business spreading across real estate, sports, hotels, retail, and even healthcare, having its own airline and Formula 1 team also at one point of time. With several cases of financial fraud with investors, especially through the chit fund pyramid scheme, it absolutely decimated a once ruling business tycoon. The existence of the company has more or less been wiped out of the face of this country. With Sahara 1 Motion Pictures, the company produced movies like No Entry, Run, Mala Mal Weekly, and Darna Zaruri Hai, with its last venture being an English film titled Bhopal, A Prayer for the Rain. The movies, however, was just like a side hustle that barely generated massive revenues for the company. It was, however, several of the other industry that made him a demigod. If you want to truly see the rise and fall of an entrepreneur from being in the pinnacle of wealth and opulence to absolutely nothingness, it's the story of Subrata Roy, having passed away just last year in 2023. Watch Bad Boy Billionaires on Netflix. It's so worth it to see his journey. Raj Kapoor. When you hear how the likes of Aditya Chopra, Karan Johar, and Bhushan Kumar have carried on and built on the legacy of their fathers, you wonder why this has not been the fate of the production company RK Films, created by Raj Kapoor. One of the most successful stories of a visionary director and producer who foreshadowed Indian cinema to reach greater heights as the years passed by. But why couldn't his sons take the production company and name forward? With short stints of failures and success, Raj Kapoor, under the banner of RK Films, started directing, starring, and producing his own films very early on in his career. While the first venture, Aag, was a commercial failure, movies such as Barsat, Avara, and Shri 420 went on to become blockbusters, making him not only a powerful producer, but one of the top leading heroes of the country. However, the 60s and 70s saw a decline in Raj Kapoor's position as a producer, with the massive failure of Mera Naam Joker that almost made him bankrupt. there was only momentary relief with his son's launch Bobby in 1973 being a huge success. However, as Raj Kapoor became an aged filmmaker, the relevance of RK Films as one of the strongest production houses also dwindled. After Raj Kapoor passed, the three sons who made their directorial ventures under the banner, namely Henna, directed by Randhir Kapoor, Prem Granth, directed by Rajiv Kapoor, and Aa Ab Laut Chale, directed by Rishi Kapoor, all financially failed. While it was clear that the sons absolutely lacked the directorial prowess of their father, what was also clear was that they lacked a vision for the future of the production company. The industry shifted along the lines of the suburbs of Goregaon and Andheri, and the 2-acre property of RK Films that was situated in Chembur almost became a burden for the family. On 16 September 2017, RK Studio caught fire and suffered huge loss of property and memorabilia. In 2018, Godrej Properties took over the land for a whopping price, presumably upwards of 180 crores. What's also sad is that the bungalow built by Raj Kapoor in Chembur was also sold to the same company.
I'm sorry, the people will miss RK Studios also. But let me assure you that we miss it more than anything else. Today you have come to interview me in a new office, which is a temporary place for me. And we can't help it.
I'm all for a sense of pragmatism regarding such matters, but it's rather sad that a production company that had such a reputation at one point of time just ceases to exist now. I hope one day, with Ranbir Kapoor expressing his desire to direct, that he revives the RK Films banner, because the legacy should not just vanish in thin air. I'll just end today's video with an anecdote and you can yourself guess who I may be talking about. Producing films is no joke, and the cliche stories we often dismiss ki ek din wo raja tha aur phir sadak pe aa gaya are really true for this profession. You know, a production company just before the pandemic was producing mid-budget, high-concept films. They struck gold with one project, which had a very patriotic and effective touch. Overnight, the production company went from being a hermit kingdom of sorts to start flexing their muscles that were going to be in the big leagues. They held parties, brought a new office, and they made the terrible decision to assume that only films with the same themes will work even after the pandemic. They streamlined multiple films regarding the same themes. Now the company is going through a crisis of sorts, as one film that did moderately well in the span of 6 years, nothing has financially worked in theatres. And I mean nothing. Disastrous results. Almost changing the tide completely in a matter of a few years. This job is definitely meant for the brave few, as its unpredictability almost guarantees a lack of longevity and security.